Every experiencer has to overcome ontological shock, and we have to do it while the world says we're crazy. At Parawareness, we explore life through the paranormal lens, emphasizing psychology and spirituality over technology. This is Parawareness.
I have prepared something, so let me share a screen. All right, so I have collected, as you know, this assessment stuff on my website, OTIR.org, and I have extracted, a big data from all of this, from what people have responded. It is completely anonymized, so we only see total counts. There is no user data or anything. So there are kind of interesting results. I have collected so far around a little bit more than 100 assessments over 2 months. So we can see that average age distribution is around 25-35, I would say. It's the most. But there are TIs who are like 66. There are significantly more of those who are like over 55, which I didn't expect, to reflect this as much. Of course, we have to remember that this data is not universally representative. It only represents people who have found the website or were funneled to the website from, for example, your Reddit, the Parawareness Reddit, or OTIR Discord, or from somewhere else. There is interesting data on TI experience duration. We can see that, the large chunk of durations is from 2 to 10 years, let's say. But there are also significant amounts of like 20 plus years. 9 people have reported 20 plus years of experience, which is wow.
That seems significant.
That's crazy. Have you ever spoken to somebody that's been, that said that they've been dealing with it for 20 plus years? And have you noticed any correlations between people that have had it for that long of a duration?
Yes. There are strong patterns. I have spoken with one guy, for example, recently. And as he was talking about himself, it was getting more and more obvious how he is misrepresenting himself. Like he has a wrong opinion of how he actually holds up in this experience. He would say like, I have no problem with this. I have gained absolute clarity. They aren't able to manipulate me. And then he would say something that was like obvious a false narrative. I don't quite remember the details, and I would not want to disclose the details of the particular person. But he would say, for example, they are listening next to my house, and you would say, okay, this is not true. Nobody is listening next to his house, but he thinks he is. And people get stuck for so long because they are usually can get over a specific trait of their character. And for that person, for example, it was pride. He could not. He got stuck in this feeling of responsibility for every TI. I have to liberate everyone. I have to get, to the bottom of this and stop the phenomenon for good for everyone. And he would not focus on himself. He would refuse, even to consider that this is about him. No, this is about every TI, and I should look at it. If I want to stop it, I have to find the source, and I have to fight this source instead of looking inward on how to better adapt to experience, on how to exit it. And I have noticed that every person in this kind of long experience, they have stuck about some particular aspect, while they made significant progress on other things. For example, they would actually be much less reactive, right? Yeah, and they would say, I used to respond to provocations, but then after a few years, I learned that I should just sit tight and not run around with knife trying to fight people or something like this.
What do you consider an ex TI? Do you consider like the whole experience, the voices, the tactile sensations, the everything just completely stops, return to normal living? Or do you consider it to be, you're no longer targeted. You've gone beyond that belief of being a targeted individual?
Yeah, it's of course it's the latter. The former is usually corresponding, but for me, the XTI is a person who is not affected by the experience. He can experience various aspects, but he is not affected by it. It's not a factor in his life.
Yeah,
he can handle anything. He is not driven by it. His life goals is not oriented around it. Well, maybe for us, it's a bit different because I kind of committed to this whole TI thing, and it is part of my life, even if I consider myself an ex-TI. But this is just what I like to do. It's not because I want to fight this phenomenon, to stop it, or for everyone, or no. It's just I wouldn't say hobby, but just a thing that I do. But most of ex-TIs, of course, they just don't give any damn about anything. This is why they leave communities. This is why they leave, groups. They don't leave any digital trace afterwards. They basically return back to their life and they enjoy it and they don't care about anything that happens.
Let me clarify what you were saying there with the people who have been in it 20 plus years. Were you saying basically that what ends up happening with a lot of them is they think they've beaten it and then they find out they haven't?
No. Those. I could actually, trace the correlation between those answers and the view of those people. But usually, as I didn't find a lot of them in the first place. But when somebody is in TI experience for this long, he considers himself still a TI and he responds to question on a TI website. He is not having a good time. I don't think any of those people who responded 20 plus years that they consider themselves ex-TIs, they are suffering from it. This is an interesting distribution of people, how intense the experience for them is at the moment of the survey. And the median is, somewhere around the lines of barely able to keep job, barely able to function, to earn something, but very intense, extremely hard. Those are various degrees that I have provided, to kind of quantify this experience. Of course, it's difficult to quantify. It's very personalized, and somebody's level 10 would be a level 5 for somebody else. But still, I tried to be as objective as possible. And I thought there would be more people who answer like the maximum stage, but no, they were actually, quite relevant.
If it wanted to, that whole circle could be red.
Absolutely.
I keep that in mind a lot.
Absolutely.
Right.
And you can actually see that it's very, not totally uniform, but closer to uniform than to prevalent in some. The middle part gets more extended, but the extremes are also present. And it can actually also represent people on different stages on the experience. The most intense, it's closer to the end of the first half or so. And the maximum intensity level is, of course, different. The almost half, they answered that they could not function at all at maximum intensity level. A little bit less, they were able to barely functional, like take care of themselves and stuff. And very few, like a few people, they said they did not have like any intrusion in their life, like they did or did not have any complications. I suppose those would be people who experience more of the external phenomena, like synchronicities, gang stalking, and stuff. Because with voices, as you know, it's it doesn't get to zero at the max intensity. Max would be 9.
It blasted me. The worst thing, and it was intentional. it really wanted to show me this is what we could do if we wanted to. And I was hit with, man, it felt like there was an electronic hand of some sort that was smashing my face into my pillow, and I could feel it. And I was hit with this blinding, high-pitched ringing that blinded my sight. So my sight went blind. I felt like an electronic hand forcing my face into my pillow, and I was just completely incapacitated.
Wow.
I mean, just completely. Yeah, I mean, you can't do anything with you'll just kill yourself. Like if that's, I maybe I could have made it to a hospital, maybe, or ask or scream, somebody call the ambulance, but to do something like that and just leave it on, your life is over. Like you can't, you're not a human being.
The interesting thing I noticed is that on the extreme levels, on the 9 out of 9, you do not actually have a lot of suicidal thoughts. At these points, you just you go, you're screaming internally, and you want to make it stop, but you don't think of doing it by this hardcore means. When it gets to the middle stages of intensity, there's the most dangerous value of that, I would say, where people are getting more depressed than actually harassed when they think about if this even ever stops. Like, why does it happen to me? What can I do? They get completely desperate in lower stages of intensity. So, yeah. And this is what we have here about suicidal thoughts. This is interesting because I wanted to see, I had my theories, and from the experience of speaking with guys, almost everybody had at least talked about it. But surprisingly, 36% tell that they never had suicidal thoughts, which is I don't know, maybe it's an error of phrasing on the question, but basically they say 36% say never. Maybe they a little bit skew the reality here and just do not want to admit it to themselves. And around 30% they say that they have thoughts, but they can resist them. They are able to easily resist. Around 15% say that this they have those thoughts, and so on. I need to work on the labels here. I made this with AI 15 minutes before the call, so I would make a labels more comprehensive for the later review. I think in half a year, when I have around maybe 1,000 assessments or so, I can have a much more precise representation. So yeah, and here we have a perceived source graph, and it's more or less equal distribution. The least represented group is spiritual positive, but I think it's because people move on fast enough to the omnipotent force, like the 6th stage, and some 10% think it's family X. 25% think it's groups like mafia,
Illuminati.
Something non-governmental, some fringe groups, for example, maybe Masons. Although those I would actually put in the 3rd stage, because it would represent some massive force, some kind of government organization, or equally potent to the government, some like Illuminati. Yes, I mean they're completely fictional at this point, but a lot of people think they aren't, and about 18.6% think it's occult / negative. So it would mean paranormal negative forces like demons, witches, I don't know, evil spirits, and so on. And while the spiritual positive would mean like ancestor spirits or like angels, etc. And a little bit more heavier on the mundane side than on the spiritual side, but that's a surprisingly big chunk and a lot of hope going on here. And we're gonna get them move to the left. This is how the people feel about the experience. What do they want? How do they want it to end? And they answer, kind of equal distribution. Biggest chunk of privacy. People want to restore their privacy, get that back again. So this is like the major pain. So a lot of people want to stop it for themselves. So it just stops. But even more want to stop it for everyone. People want to stop it because it's unjust. They want to bring the end to injustice. For like 17%, it's helplessness is the big thing. 2 people said it's getting denied. It's that people like family don't believe them, people don't believe them, and they want to give belief. So this is the distribution. I'm thinking about making this data public later, so anybody can study it, see correlations, of course, all completely anonymized. But this is what we have to have in TI communities. We have to gather data, exchange it, study it on a big chunk, like on big selections. So far, like I always cite the Sydney University. I think it was, or University of Queensland study where they asked about 40,000 people in 17 countries. They made a big survey about psychosis symptoms, and it was very helpful to see what percentage of people experience TI-like symptoms in in the wild out there. And there are other data like revenge thoughts. What people think should be done to the perpetrators, and big chunk wants to the painful death. They want prosecution or they want compensation. A lot actually don't care. Some people even had laughs, and 14 people have responded that experience made them stronger and they don't want even to think about revenge, which is pretty nice to see. And 5 people told they appreciated the experience. Wow. They found it helpful, and they found it actually benefiting them. There's a lot of data on symptoms.
This is really good stuff.
This is actually interesting. I will share a document with you later, so you can on your own time look at it. But it deserves proper publication, of course. So most popular symptom is electronic devices hacked. Like 79% told that they had this, and least popular symptom, a forced out-of-body experience. Yet 20 people say that they have it, and 25 think they have foreign body implants and so on. Regarding the voices, I think. Third, the second popular is synchronicities, and the third popular is mind intrusions. So people, like 75% of those who answered, they had some kind of messing with their thoughts, and around 71 acknowledged that they were hearing voices. So it's a big percentage. It's more than I thought. I was giving it around 55-60%, but it's 71, and so estimations were more or less correct, but even lower than the results. Gang stalking 63%, targeted harassments like workplace harassment, for example, 62%, street theater 60%, telepathy, like recognition of actual telepathy, back and forth mind communication, 58%. They reported that they have this, and and this is about coping strategies. So what people actually attempted to do, to try to defend themselves or recover themselves. And the most popular answer is physical exercise.
Wow.
And avoidance behavior. So I would say it's like walking, visiting gyms, swimming, hiking, and it's actually it's very helpful, as to at least distract yourself. Avoidance behavior, people. That's what normally TIs do. They shut themselves in, and legal action is the last place. Like only 4 people try it. Although a lot thinking about it, as we know, but actually tried just 4 people. And physical shielding 5, but I think I have misrepresented the question on the side because I should have said electronic shielding or something, because maybe people thought physical shielding is like wall bricks or something.
Right, or a suit of
Have
armor.
either of you guys had your electronics hacked? Have you experienced that aspect of it?
Oh yeah, but to me, every time, while I was trying to do this today, everything suddenly went wrong. And most times that I do a video, I'll have this moment where all these things will suddenly start strangely going wrong. And I don't see it as hacking at all. I see it as synchronicity.
Yeah.
I've only had one experience with it when I was doing the podcast for Codex of Curiosities. The whole electricity on his block shut off. And then he was having problems on his end trying to get back to the point where we left off, and it kept erasing for him. It would just, he said he's never had any technical difficulties like that before. But as far as like my electronics being hacked or weird things happening or my bank accounts or passwords or any, like, I've never had anything like that before.
Well, remember Jimmy also had a internet problem that was weird, very strange. Whenever we did that first interview with him, Kevin.
Yeah, I don't consider that. I mean, I guess I don't look at that as like, very blatant hacking of my devices. Sometimes it's like if I can pass it off as like, my Wi-Fi is messed up or the signal's shitty or something like that, or then that's different. But I'm talking like actual my devices being hacked and messages are coming up, and I've never experienced anything to that, that degree.
It's usually subtle, right? You said the right thing. Like I can pass it off as something else, but TIs, they aren't inclined to pass it off. They rather attribute it to the experience, even if it's something very innocent that can be in usual life. You can just brush it off. But yeah, and I have had experienced that when it just started for me. I was trying to work, and it was a huge problem because I wasn't able to work even, with voices harassing me all the time. But then it started to also affect the computer. There were bugs out of nowhere, which I would try to fix the whole day. And then the next day it were magically all working again, although no actual changes, were introduced in the code and stuff like that. And when people say about, like I recently talked with somebody about their device being hacked, and they described some like web pages would open up out of nowhere or disappear, the content would change, yada yada. And I think the less people are, technically proficient, the more they are likely to take synchronicity, malfunction, or bug for device being hacked. Of course, nothing is really being hacked as far as I'm concerned in TI experience. It doesn't need to. It just can introduce interference in a way that would look like a hack on any device or any situation. And it would happen, of course, with the perfect timing to break your balls in the worst way. A few weeks ago, there was this massive vulnerability for the React that has been published online, and every hacker here and there started to exploit it. And I actually got hacked. The OTIR server, my server got hacked by the Chinese. They installed a crypto miner on there, and I had a hard time, to just clean everything up. And if it happened, years prior, I would be absolutely freaking out about it.
Now, I actually had my my ALEXA. I don't want to trigger everybody's home devices, but I had my home speaker, my ALEXA, come on 3 different times during this last 10 years of experience. Come on out of nowhere, play a song I had never heard before, and the words of the song were relevant to the torture that I was being put through at that moment. Right? So, I mean, that's hacking completely, but it's like, well, what is it though? You know what I mean? Like, you really think that someone's cares enough about me that they're going to do that to my, I mean, it's synchronicity in my opinion.
Yeah,
I don't see another way to look at it.
Now I get the poltergeist activity, and even the poltergeist activity I get will be very ambiguous, right? So my toilet seat is a great example. I can put my toilet seat up, and it's not one, sometimes like people have like just crappy toilet seats that fall on their own. You go to take a whiz and you got to hold it up with one hand while you're going, like,
Right.
Mine does not do that. My toilet seat, when it goes up, it actually leans back, like it's got to lean, and it stays back.
That's how it should be.
That's how it should be. That's a proper toilet seat, right?
That's correct.
But one night that thing went bam and just slammed down. I got up for work at 3 a.m, and as soon as I came out, it just went boom and slammed on its own. Like it had been up all night. But then when I got up to go to work and started coming out of my bedroom, that's when it slammed. And I was like, whoa, and then there was but again, that's a very ambiguous thing. I can play that off as like, yeah, toilet seats slam. But then my child's play toys that light up, they'll start getting played with. My girlfriend and I will wake up at the same exact time, like we're woken up, and then all of a sudden the play toys start getting played with. Ding, ding, ding. And of course that can be brushed off as the batteries are going bad, but yet they're still active. The batteries aren't going bad.
But yeah, that was something that a lot of experiencers, people like UFO people, talk about how hard it is to catch these orbs or these craft or everything on camera, because what usually happens is it can be played off as something else. So the same way in our experience, almost every single thing the phenomenon does to us, it can be played off as something else, so that you can't ever say, well, that's clearly because,
Well, I think it operates like a Japanese cone, where it's all up for like your interpretation of it. And if you're still in the fear-based state of mind where you're like, oh, there's demons in my house and they're slamming my toilet seat, or there's like, well, then you're just expressed fear into your environment, and then that's how it's going to be addressed. But if you don't do that, or if you learn not to do that, then it evolves into something else. But there's always this threshold. It's always pushing this fear threshold for you to overcome and push through, and then it evolves into something else. And a part of me doesn't view the electronic harassment to be any different. I feel like it's all just a test your fear game. Like everything that it does is just a way for you to analyze yourself in the moment, not so much what it's actually doing, but to observe yourself and your reaction in that moment. I mean, if you can focus on your reaction, then you know what you need to work on, and then go from there.
Does your girlfriend recognize the paranormal side of it? You mentioned that she probably observed, and you have told her about this various situation. Does she dismiss it as just synchronicity, randomness, weather and whatever, or does she recognize, there is something that actually intrudes in our life that affects us?
Oh yeah. When especially with the toys that we're playing, she's like, oh, we have a visitor. So she's already very spiritually in tune, and she's gone through her own TI experience, but kind of chooses to just ignore that that's what it was. She just views it as almost like what I did for years. I just brushed it off as like psychosis until it made its presence known. This is not psychosis, and you need to address this differently. She never came out of that. She just addressed it as a state of psychosis and then left it at that, and it left her alone. So that's fine. But it still will do these oddball things in our apartment. And she doesn't view the two as being the same thing. She just says, oh, we have a visitor here. But she's already very spiritually in tune and into that kind of stuff anyway. So that helps.
Do you have any other data, Peter, that you found, jumped out? I mean, what you've shown us so far, I'm fascinated with. And I hope I get a copy of that assessment.
Yeah. I will provide you with copies. But basically, yeah, we looked at everything that I managed to compile so far. There would be interesting cross correlations, like for example, with it would be interesting to select just the people with maximum duration of experience and see if there is a pattern between those specific answers. And it's all possible to do because they sorted by entry. So in the future, but I would like to have a bigger selection than just a few people, because the patterns, they are visible better on a distance.
I feel like I've been going through like a resting period lately, and it's been nice. I feel like my experience and the community has always been, and I put this in the Discord the other day as well. Like I've noticed this very pattern of like, change is impressed upon people, and then there's integration, and then there's like a resting period, and then it's change, integration, rest, change, integration, rest, change. And that's kind of been the inhale, exhale of this whole process. And I'm going through like a very good resting period. For a while there, man, I was in tune with the wax and wane of the moon on a full moon. I mean, literally, I could time it to the full moon. I would go through this very heavy oppression, and the voices would start going and going and going, trying to create confusion. And then since that's died down, it's almost like I've been kind of just a very long exhale. After over 2 years, it's just been this very long exhale. And like once that hypervigilance goes away, I'm feeling kind of empty lately. Like I've just been really, empty, I guess is a good way to put it. Like I don't have this overwhelming urge to constantly speak about it and get more information out there and try to like, create like a unity and then an orientation and a path. And I feel like that's already been done, and what I had to do has been done. And now it's time to just kind of step back and not be so reactionary, but responsive. I'm finding that there's a big difference between being, between reacting to the world and just responding to the world. There's still stimulus, but I don't have to react to it. I can respond when it's time to respond and remain empty in the meantime, and just learn to focus on my breath and my life and my family. And if I'm needed, then I can choose to respond if I want to. But the reactionary part of it is really, really died down. And it's nice. It's, it's a relief.
That's what people seek to obtain when they go to the mountains to find gurus, spend 20 years in ashrams, and we just get it after a little time of extremely hellish experience. But still, it's nice to have. It's like a set of super abilities that we obtain really after everything that happens. Changes us in a way that we didn't even knew that we needed, really. But it's very nice to have.
Peter, would you say the same thing has been happening to you lately? That you've been kind of on an exhale, kind of a break, not a break, but it's been for a couple of years now. I have occasional bursts of activity here and there, but really I've let everything go on autopilot. I think the website is the biggest part of actual committed work that I've done in a couple of years, because I try to write every once in a while, but I just enjoy life lately, just trying to be present with my wife, my family, resolve issues here and there, and it's nice. It's how I like it. The website took a couple of months of active work, and I still continue to improve it, but I took a break for a couple of weeks now. I have this big update coming. It's on a technical site, so you won't see anything, but it would improve the site's visibility on the Google and other search engines, because right now it's shit. But still, actually, I've checked
Google Analytics today. There is some organic traffic people find in the website through the search engines already, not just from the direct links. So it's out there.
I have a Parawareness website coming out
Cool.
in the next couple of weeks. Yeah, I was really blessed. So I've built my own websites before, but I was using Webador, which was very easy, and that was more business oriented. But with this one, I went with WordPress because I wanted to have access to a daily blog and videos, and I just wanted more freedom to be able to put more things on there. And I was having a hard time with it. I was just not computer savvy enough.
You said WordPress. You said WordPress, and for me, a whole bunch of PTSD started to come up.
Me too.
Yeah. Same here. So anyway, I'm at work, right? And I start talking with this new guy. He's our janitor. I don't want to use the word janitor. He's a maintenance guy. Runs like the Zamboni and all throughout our warehouse and everything. And yeah, really cool guy. And his name is Vince. And I start talking to him one day, and he's telling me, he's like, oh yeah, this job's only temporary. I'm actually taking computer classes for networking and computer website design. And I tell him I'm having a hard time with WordPress. And he goes, I'll do it for you. And I said, well, how much you want for it? He's like, no, don't worry about it. He starts watching our podcast. He's like, dude, that is a really cool thing you're doing. And he wound up doing it through, I guess, like GitHub or something. Like he did it on his own separate thing. And now this next week, he's getting ready to upload it on the WordPress. And he showed me the whole design and everything and put it all together. So now that'll be out and I didn't have to do anything. So anybody who says the phenomenon is not in your favor and it's out to get you, I'm like, no, that's not true. Like I was stuck and I didn't know what to do. I had already bought and paid for Parawareness.org and just didn't know what to do. And then here you go. The maintenance guy was delivered to me that just so happened to know how to do this, and he did it for free. So
exactly. When you look at the fact that for the last 10 years, I've had for 3 years, the first 3 years of the experience, I didn't have any income. The last 7 years, I've had an annual income of $15K. Okay. And so, and then look what I've done. You know what I mean? Like I've all upgraded, bought all this equipment and put out all these videos and everything and improved my life and everything. No, I mean, how easily would it have been for this thing to stop me from doing this? Right. So,
right.
Yeah. I'm remembering a story that I heard a few years before my child experiences has started. Here in Italy, I had a friend. He used to be a drug dealer, but that's irrelevant. Most importantly, he was a DJ. He created his own music and stuff. And he told me the story, which I laughed off completely. But later I recognized it for what it was. So he told me that he had a dream, like not a sleeping dream, but like a wish to get a new computer for himself. And he had this really huge iMac, which was worth like €2,500 back then. It was pretty expensive. And he said it just basically a miracle happened to him because he had no money, he had no idea how to get it, and it was urgently needed for him to complete some work with the music projects. And as he was getting desperate, out of nowhere, he meets his old friend who he hasn't seen for a long time, and he says occasionally, "Oh, by the way, I have this iMac that I can sell. Like, do you want it? I will give you it for half price, and you can pay like whenever you want, just in parts." And I was like, "What kind of miracle is this? Like, if it materialized on your table, that would be a miracle." And he said, "No, you don't understand. It just happened exactly when I needed it, exactly how I needed it, on the best terms for me. It was just like a godsend." And yeah, this is how it happens a lot. Synchronicities can be positive, and a lot of times there are when we are ready for them. When we're not actively harassed already, it starts to happen more often. And if we look past in our previous, not previous life, but the life before the harassment, we can recognize a lot that positive synchronicities were a thing for our whole lives. All the times we just took them as granted.
Well, I guess Kevin's got to run, right, Kev?
Yeah, I got to get going.
Bye, Captain.
Thank you so much, guys.